Hello everyone, welcome to D20 Sundays. My name is Ian, the part-time Dungeon Master. Welcome back. Before we get started into today's session, one quick thing. I did a video some time back. You can find it up in the iCard. It's called Odin Plays. It was me and a few friends of mine from the Star Wars fan club I am goofing off. Well, I plan on doing more videos like that in the future because, it got really good response and, people really seem to like it. But I wanted to do more of those videos, but I need my people. I need the members of Odin. And the problem is currently we're having what is known as the Great Jedi War. It's a large fiction event that's going on to where everyone's pretty much preoccupied with that. So getting them together for some shenanigan gamings is a little on the difficult side. Not a problem though. Hopefully sometime here in August or next month we will have enough time to get enough people on to, record some sessions and just goof off for you. As well as I've been working more on this editing technique that I want to use for those videos to just kind of make them a little bit more goofy. But yeah, so on to today's session. Today's D20 Sundays was actually suggested by Bravo Charlie, Tua as I know him as. You can see him often down in the comments, but he emails me as he's actually plays Andre the Giant in one of my D&D campaigns. Well, Andre the Half-Orc, but he's pretty much Andre the Giant. He wanted a session on playing it safe. We've talked about the committee as far as the players getting essentially too paranoid, or they overanalyze things and they kind of just break down all momentum and they just sit there and talk about what they think should happen next. Which is sometimes great for material for me because I can just sit there and just listen and I'm like, oh man, they're doing all the work for me. Other times though, it's pretty annoying because it's like, come on guys, you are overthinking this. But as far as playing it safe though, I kind of struggled a bit as far as what should I write? What should I talk about for playing it safe? So I came up with these few key things. First, traps. Traps are everywhere. Traps are always there. Don't spend your entire day just rolling for traps every 5 feet, but maybe, check for traps, move on. But always check for traps, both magical and mundane, because there are two types of traps. Especially if your Dungeon Master is kind of fun. I've myself have developed a few non-mundane magical traps that are essentially like runes carved onto stone that if you step over them they activate and something happens. What's another thing? Oh, don't go running in guns blazing, because one, traps. Two, because you might get outmaneuvered and flanked because you were too busy charging through and didn't really pay attention to the whole idea of your surroundings. Excuse me. Know your surroundings. That was the third one. Knowing your surroundings is always important. Like, where are you? What is the current situation looking like? Is it better to charge off and try and hit the leader of the enemy one-on-one while breaking away from the rest of the party? Or is it best to stay with your party and, try and get to them as a group? You tell me, but paranoia tells me stay with the group. That's another thing, paranoia. I guess that'll be number 4, paranoia. You're not paranoid if you're right. I'm just saying. The reason being is because sometimes when you think nothing is going to happen, that's when it happens. So if you always think that something's going to happen and then nothing happens, then you're kind of relieved. But not everything is a trap, and sometimes you're being paranoid for no reason. So, not number 4? Yes, number 4? I do know this one, though. The next tip is essentially, if you're solo, you're not safe. If you are alone, separate from your party, you are not safe. The reason being is you are now at the DM's mercy completely. And I mean this in the sense that, the DM might throw a challenge at you where, combat might not be in your best interest, especially if you're the rogue. Because, yes, you can hit hard, but you've got squishy health points. You don't have the hit points of a fighter, and you don't have the armor class of a fighter. You are all about, moving nimbly and stabby, run away. So keep that in mind. I guess to sum this up would essentially be a good story as to how essentially one player learned to play it safe. We were in, I want to say it was the one-shot group. Yes, it was, because I remember the house being very ridiculous. So in the one-shot group, I was the rogue. I like playing rogues. And my job was essentially dealing with any mundane mechanical traps that I can. Meanwhile, the wizard of the group, his job was dealing with any magical traps. And this is the whole reason as to why. We were going through essentially a large fielded area in front of a house, and the fielded area had garden gnomes. Little garden gnome statues all throughout the entire fields that watched the road that we were on to the house. And if they caught sight of you, the little garden gnomes, if you crossed in front of their field of vision, they shot out a ray of frost. In fact, they shot out two, one for each eye. You know how many times we got pelted by those? Too many. Yeah. So the wizard, took out as many as he could with his cantrips, and I was the spotter using my high perception score in order to essentially find them, point the wizard in them, and he then took them out. And this continued on as we went throughout the path, with the two of us kind of like, going a little further ahead of the rest of the group to try and, keep us as much damage out of, keep us out of as much damage as possible. Well, we get up to the house, finally, it took us, I want to say the Dungeon Master said it took about an hour of doing that until we got to the house, so we were moving slower than someone who would just normally go through. And when that happened, the barbarian goes running forward. He's angry because he got hit by a few rays beforehand, so he was upset by that. But he was just frustrated with how long it took to get through this one stretch of land, and how many times we had to deal with stupid garden gnomes, that he goes running up to the front door. And as soon as he steps on the welcome mat, he takes damage. From what? Swinging blade trap. Because the doormat hit a pressure plate. And he stepped on it. And he's like, oh, well, I rage and I smash the door. So he rages and he smashes the door. And he gets hit by another trap. This whole area was trapped. It's like, for me as the rogue, as mundane traps go, cakewalk. I could go through, take my time, undo each trap. For the wizard, anytime he saw a magical trap or a garden gnome, he'd blast it. And it's like, cool, awesome, we're moving on. But the barbarian just did not learn until like the end of the session. Don't go charging ahead of us. He just keep doing it. He's like, oh, I'm going to go through this door while you guys deal with that door. And we're like, no! And then he does it anyways. And then he gets damage from like one trap or another, or two traps they set off at the same time. That's the whole guns a-blazing thing. Just don't do it. It is not always the best solution. If you have the clear advantage and you are absolutely sure that you can, charge in, deal with the group that's in there immediately, and then immediately deal with another group that might flank you or might come in behind you, then yeah, sure, go in guns a-blazing. But if you are unsure about that, don't do it. Yeah, that's as far as my video goes, as far as playing it safe, the idea of it. Like I said, be mindful of traps, know your surroundings, don't go in guns a-blazing, paranoia. And if you're solo, then you are not safe. Anyways, thank you for joining me for this D20 Sundays. I'll catch you guys next time. Laters.